but like everyone else in the world, like all the animals, all the other living beings in the world, we are suffering pretty much the same way, and not more. Of course, there are certain sufferings that only human beings can endure, and the human beings are going through, but that is pretty much made up by our own concoctions of our own, like concocted by our own mind. So materialistically, or if you look at the materials, if you look at the sources, if you look at the potential, and if you look at the potentials, if you look at the causes, and if you look at the intelligence that the human beings possess, then we will be motivated to do something about it, that the human life is not something to waste. So Master Gamboba brings us to consider how precious the human life is. And he's telling us to think in a negative sense, that if you are to lose such a human life, then it will be such an irreparable loss. So it's a loss that is not it is a loss that is never going to be. It is a loss that will never come back. That it's an irreparable loss. So seems like we have from the fourth lesson onwards. So today we will go through that. So we are going through lesson number 4, which is that so the mind that we possess as a human being is free from elaboration, but still we are stuck in samsara due to all the elaboration that we concocted with our mind. Because of that, we are still stuck in samsara. So to be stuck in samsara due to our ignorance, through which we elaborated a much larger, a much more colorful picture than it is actually out there, through which we are always stuck in samsara, in this cyclic, in this vicious cycle of samsara. Therefore, it is important to realize that the mind itself is free from the elaboration in reality. But we have, if you remember last week and the week before that, the teachings from last week and the week before that, elaboration is something, putting on something extra, something not there. So this is like special effects in a movie. It is not exactly there, but you put those, you spice it up to make the movie more interesting, so that the people will watch and love the movie much more. So you put the VFX and SFX, the sound effects and the visual effects, and the movie becomes much more interesting, more realistic, and so on and so forth. And at the time, during the time of watching the movie, you feel like whatever is displayed in front of the screen is actually happening for real. So similarly, we create a picture through our ignorance. We create a picture that we like and we dislike, and then we create our own special sound effects and visual effects, and make our little movie of samsara much more interesting than it is, and then get stuck there. We get stuck there. When something good happens, we make a huge thing out of it, and we try to, for example, if there is a another person that you are attracted to. You make a big thing out of it, and then you are you sort of elaborate or embellish the beauty, the attractiveness of the person that you are attracted towards, so much more than there is in reality. And then you think about that person, you keep thinking of that person. That person sort of occupies your mind the whole time, and so therefore you are always stuck there. Likewise, somebody you dislike, and then you keep thinking about how that person harmed you, put you in harm's way, and how, if you get the opportunity, you will teach that person a lesson, and so on and so forth. So all these embellishments, all these elaborations are created by the mind, and we get stuck in our own little theatrical place. We make a movie. We are the maker of the movie that we are in, and then we make the movie so nice. We create the movie so well that we feel as if the movie is real, and then we are stuck within the movie itself. We are trapped in the movie that we made. So all this comes from the elaboration of our mind. Our mind has we have the mental capacity to elaborate if we want to. Even so, even though reality is free of such elaborations, our mind, since our mind has the potential, has the ability to create such an elaboration, it does do that, and then we are stuck in that elaborate, grand cinema that is our life. Our life, which is a grand cinema, and we are stuck there thinking this is our real life. So what Master Gambupa tells us is that we have to wake up of that sleep, or in other words, we have to get out of that cinema hall. We have to be notified that this is a movie. We have to be tapped on the shoulder and tell us, hey, this is a movie, don't take it for real, and come out of the cinema hall. And only then one will be free from the mental elaborations. So if you are stuck there, then it's a waste of life. If you spend all of your time watching a movie, of course that's a waste of life. Once in a while, it's entertaining, it's relieving. But if you are stuck in a movie hall your whole life, eating there, sleeping there, if you are stuck in a movie hall, that is not a very nice thing. Similarly, if you are stuck in samsara, it's not a nice thing, because the whole thing that is happening around is a creation, is a projection of your own mental elaboration. So therefore, you want to be woken up. You want to be taken away from this entertaining, enthralling, and very nice cinema hall, which is actually a trap. And that can be done through realizing the true nature of our mind, which is free from elaboration. The true nature of our mind is free from elaboration, but we elaborate, we put things upon it to make it look more interesting, to spice it up. When you drink water itself, there is no particular taste. But since the taste of water is so bland, we put sugar in it, we put tea leaves in it, we put honey in it, we put different kind of things and call it tea, call it coffee, call it Coca-Cola, whatever. We put different flavors into the water, which is bland, and then we are attached to the flavors which we created, not natural ones, but the tea leaves are natural, but the teas that we drink are not natural because it's a man-made one. We concocted the drink. We concocted a drink called tea by mixing tea leaves, by putting water, by putting sugar or salt or honey or whatever, and lemon and other things, and then we call it the tea is so good, so delicious, and we also say this is natural. The tea leaves are natural, of course, it grows on the trees. In general, tea leaves are natural, but the tea that we drink is not natural. It is made from natural flavors, but the tea is not natural. So if you are, so this happens, we are attracted to the teas that we drink, the teas, coffees, or whatever drinks that we drink. And all that is not natural. It is elaboration through our labor. So similarly, the same thing is done with our mind to create a picture of samsara that is most enthralling, that is most attractive, or most annoying. It's not always the attractive thing that your mind is stuck with. Sometimes it's the most disturbing ones. So it's so disturbing that it keeps popping up in your mind at all times. So that is what is going on. And so we have to unstuck, get ourselves unstuck from the reality that we have created. Not the natural reality, but the reality that we have concocted, that we have made.
Okay, so the next is after realizing the importance, after realizing the potential of one's mental capacity, how much that one can achieve, and how much. So this is very important here. If you look at all the negative things, or if you look at all the elaborations that the mind has made, then you can see how much potential the mind has. All the problems, all the troubles that were created were in the world, so-called man-made problems. A lot of them, much of them are made problems, and the so-called man-made problems are created by man's mind. And if you look at the destructive abilities of the mind, you will see the mind does possess a huge potential, and that potential can be used either positively or negatively. And when it's used negatively, it is destructive, hugely destructive. But the same power can be used positively, and then it can be so much more. So it can be so much productive, so much it can bring so much bliss. It can bring so much growth and development to the world if you use the same amount of mental prowess, the same amount of the mental potential to do good things. It can do the same amount of it can bring so much more happiness, so much more joyfulness. The only thing missing out here is that we are more incentivized, we are more motivated to do the negative things. Not so because we so much love doing negative things, but the negative things were the outcomes of thinking in the short term, thinking for short-term goals that are achievable in our lifetime or in within a few years. So when we are the decision makers, whether at the helm of a government or at helm of a company or at helm of a family, wherever we are, we make decisions that are more convenient for us, in that the goals are we make decisions based on achievable or visible goals. Of course, in one sense, it is a good thing to do, but sometimes, if all of us start making only visible sort of goals, if we make decisions based on only visible goals, only so much is visible. Only so much we cannot see. Majority of us cannot see what will be the outcome within the next 2-3 years. And if we make a decision based on simply that, then the outcome will also be fruitful for only the next 2-3 years. And beyond that, it will not be fruitful. It will have an adverse effect on the environment, on the community. And this is what we are seeing all over the world. Anyway, now bringing it much more closer to our own lives. So by looking at the destructive power of the mind, we can also make a deduction as how powerful the mind is if we are to use it for a better cause, for a better cause. And so by realizing that, one must use it for the ultimate good cause, which is enlightenment, for the sake and for the benefit of all sentient beings. And to do that, the road to enlightenment is a treacherous. The road to enlightenment is a treacherous one. It's a long journey, and so therefore you will need a guide, and that guide is usually regarded by the name a guru. And so therefore you will need a guru until you reach enlightenment. Without a guru, since you have never been to if you are to travel to a certain destination where the road is treacherous and unpredictable and so on and so forth, then you will need a guide, crossed, or at least either crossed over to the destination, or either or someone who has treaded on the path before, who is treading on the path, or who has treaded on the path before you and has more experience in treading the path than you do. And it is extremely important that you rely upon that guide. So we don't have to go very far on this kind of thing. The mountaineering expeditions that are carried out, if you look at people who try to climb the like Mount Everest or any of the summits, when they travel in groups, and then there is a group leader which everyone adheres to. The group leader is more experienced. The group leader will give instructions which everyone will follow. If one of the members of the tour or the trek disobeys or does something that is contrary to the instructions of the guide, then everyone, the tour, the trek will be a failure. The expedition will become a failure, or will have lots of difficulties. Lots of difficulties covering the summit. So, so therefore, it is important to have a guru to which one adheres to, instructions one adheres to, until one reach the summit, which is enlightenment. That is lesson number 5. So now, after having a guru, so the guru is just like the guide when you are going on a mountaineering trek. And even if you have a guide, if you don't follow the instructions of the guide, if you do not adhere to the rules and guidelines that the guide gives you, then it's the same thing. Just by having a guide doesn't mean anything. Just because you have a guide to take you to the summit of the mountain, you cannot get to the mountain. Of course, you will need to go there. If you will need to track yourself, and at the same time, you will need to adhere, follow the instructions, the guidelines of the guide. If you do not follow the guidelines, then and the rules and regulations that the guide gives you as instructions has to be properly. So in this regard, the same thing goes with Dharma practice. There is something called the vows, and there's something called the commitments, normally known as the Samayas. So Samayas, it is kind of same thing, but usually when we take vows as lay people, vows as monks, monastics, there are, the monastic vows as well as there are layman's vow as well. So when you take vows, they are to be followed rigorously because they are there for your own protection. It's like wearing the mask during the pandemic. It's like wearing a helmet while riding a motorcycle. It's like wearing protective gears while going through a manufacturing plant and so on and so forth. So these are there to protect you. It is not there to trap you. It's not there to cage you inside. It's not there to. It's actually there to protect you from all the dangers from the external world, the treacherous path that you are trading through. And the same goes with the Samaya, or the commitment, is usually it's the same thing, but it's a term used mostly in Vajrayana teachings. In the Vajrayana teachings, we use the term Samaya. In the Sutrayana teachings, we don't use the term Samaya, but it's basically the same thing. It's the commitment that you have. Is the commitment that you have avowed to your guru, to your guide, that you will uphold, so that if you do not uphold those guidelines, then of course your journey will be much more. Your journey will be very unpleasant if you do not follow the guidelines properly. So therefore, keeping the samayas and keeping the vows and the commitments intact is very important. And when you receive a teaching from a person, whoever that may be, a monk, Tibetan or otherwise, monk or otherwise, a gentleman or a lady, doesn't matter. When you receive a teaching from someone, and then after you regard that person as your teacher, as your guide, as your guru, from then onwards that person becomes your guru. If you do not regard that person as your guru, even if you receive teaching every day, that person will never become your guru. Once you decide that person is your guru, when you make that lock within your mind that this person is my guru, from then onwards, the guru-student sort of relation starts. And once that starts, then it has to be, you have to follow the instructions of the guru thoroughly, and by doing so, one will be able to reach one's destination of enlightenment to a much smoother. The journey will be much more smoother that way. So yeah, so if two people receive the teachings from one person, then these two persons become what is known as the Dharma brother and sister. Dharma brothers or Dharma sister. Dharma brothers if they are male, Dharma sisters if they are female. And when you receive a teaching from someone, a tantric teaching from someone, and you regard that person as your tantric master, then you and the other person who is receiving the teaching, they all become what is known as the Vajra brothers. So if it's a general teaching, it's Dharma brothers, and if it's a Vajrayana teaching, it's the Vajra brothers. And something that is quite common in today's world is the squabbling, backbiting about Dharma brothers. People who attend the teachings, So saying, oh no, this person is not this and this and that. So this is a very dangerous thing. On top of keeping the Samaya intact, how the other person practice the Dharma is their business, it's not your business. Your business is yourself. And that is a very, very big business. How to take care of your own self. That is a huge business. So don't worry about what others are doing. If the person is doing something good and you like that, you can appreciate that. But if you feel like that person is doing the wrong thing, that is their business. Maybe that person was given a specific instruction by the guru to do it that particular way. Who knows? Anyway, so don't poke people's, as we say, don't poke your business. That is their business. It's the same thing. This is their practice. Given the responsibility to look after their business, you don't look after their business. Similarly, if you're not given the responsibility to look after their practices or what they're doing, this is not your responsibility, so don't worry about it. Your responsibility is yourself, so take care of yourself. Have you improved from yesterday from last year to this year? Is there any improvement that you have made? Have you remained the same arrogant, ignorant, annoying person that you were 10 years ago, or have you made some changes? So your business is yourself, and this is a huge business. So take care of that business and leave others alone. So this is something very common within Dharma brothers. So don't do that. Keep that in mind. Just take care of your own business, take care of your own practices, and don't, yeah. So after realizing the potential of your mind, after realizing the preciousness of your life, after realizing the potential that your mind has, that you have, after taking the proper guidance from the proper guru, and after following the instructions in Samaya properly and doing your practices properly, not minding others' business, not minding others what other people are doing their practice good or not, but minding your own business, taking care of your own practices, then, of course, due to the law of causality, karma, when there's a cause, there's an effect. So when you do all these things properly, then with proper causes comes proper results, and the results comes in the form of realizations. So there are many different forms of realizations, such as being able to see the future, being able to to have magical feats, and so there are many many special abilities that one will possess as you progress with your practices, as your mental clarity sharpens, as your mind becomes more and more clear, and when the mind becomes more and more clear, you are able to see more things, see things that you haven't seen before. You will be able to see those things, and you will become what other people what in today's world what today's world considers as smart. You will become more smart, you will become more clever, intelligent, and so on and so forth. And when you become an intelligent person, you have lots of ability. And so if then you with this and that, and of course, if there is a real situation where people are suffering and so on and so forth, and you can do something about it, then of course you should step in and work for the people. But other than that, just for the sake of gaining more popularity, gaining more wealth, and so on and so forth, if you engage in people's the dealing with everyday people, so because you are considered intelligent, now if you set up by giving consultation to people about that and people's problem never ceases. there will always be, if you solve today's problem, tomorrow there will be a new problem. So if you keep solving for everyday people just like that, daily problems of the people, then you will have no time for you, no time to develop your mind, no time to attain enlightenment, no time to practice, put into practice. So you cannot do that. If you do so, then you are again wasting quality time of your own to develop, because people's problem will never cease. As I said, if it's a real trouble, is in danger, if somebody's in hunger, somebody's being cold, no food, no shelter, this and that kind of thing, then of course utilize your mind to the fullest, use your mental power to solve their problem. This is very good. But suspicion about what that person is doing, what my partner is doing, what my business partner is doing, what my life partner is doing, and that kind of this and that, they come to realize masters to ask about that kind of thing, to see, oh, okay, how my business is going to, my husband or wife is doing it out of suspicion, out of doubt, and that kind of thing, and then this is okay from the layman's perspective because they have a problem and they are come to ask. But if the teacher or the person who has made some realizations, some spiritual realizations, who has a clarity of mind, who is intelligent, who is considered intelligent and sharp, if that person engages in these kind of activities, then that person is again stuck in samsara, because even though you are not in samsara yourself, but you are stuck picking out the minor problems of the samsaric people, which is again an illusion. So it's not a real problem, it's a problem or a trouble that is concocted by the ignorance of such people. So if you are stuck with that, that is again, so one should not be stuck with that kind of thing. This is there may be not such danger for many of us because we haven't made much progress in our practice and developing realization and so on and so forth. But it's more dangerous to people who do have such, who do possess such abilities. So we can cover both of them, this one and the next one, which is that if you use that, again, one thing is to use it, if you think you are solving the world's problem by tackling all the minor problems that everyone has, then actually you are not. You are at the time for practicing. So this is not making any real change to the world. If you solve the problem of someone who is suspicious of their partner or this and that kind of thing, whether I should buy this and that, you are actually not solving the problem of the world. And the next lesson is, if you do it for to earn money, to make profit, and so on and so forth, then again you are utilizing your potential for you are utilizing your potentials erroneously. You are making a big mistake out of that. So whether you do it out of a good heart or whether you do it with a profit in mind, both are wrong. Even if you do it with a good heart, you have to look at the gain and the loss here. If you are doing a small service to the people by clearing their doubts, but at the same time, you have such a huge potential to become enlightened, to be liberated, and your mind has such a clarity to realize the truth, and so on and so forth, which you are not utilizing, but utilizing your intelligence for very minor things. So it's a wrongful act in that sense. And if you are utilizing it to gain profit, to gain money, to gain wealth, and so on and so forth, again, you are doing it wrong. You are doing it for selfish reasons. So therefore, they are both wrong in that sense. So next is, since all sentient beings have been our mother, so we should not hold any grudges or any negative emotions towards them. To put it simply, to think of all sentient beings as your mother and all this, that, this and that, for some it's this is a more convenient practice, but for some it is not so. Another way of thinking is all sentient beings. You know, even though it may be difficult for you to be convinced that they have been our mothers and so on and so forth, even if you are to think that our parents, and so therefore they are kind to us, and so therefore we should be kind to them. You know, there's a sense of selfishness there. I should be kind to them because they are kind to me, and right. Of course, in the world that we live in, we are always incentivized by selfish motives. If there is something for me to gain, then I will do it. If there is nothing for me to gain, I will not do it. So this is the ordinary way of thinking. Of course, it's a very effective incentive for people to practice, for people to be kind to others by telling them all sentient beings have been your parents, so therefore they were kind to you, and you should be grateful and hold no grudges and be kind to them as well. Another way of thinking, another selfless way of thinking, it may be for some the previous method is much better. For some, another method, which is that all sentient beings, whether you regard them as your parents or have been parents or not, we are all same in the sense that we desire happiness. We are all looking for the same thing. Everybody, let's just talk about the human beings, which is 7 billion plus population. All the 7 billion people, they want they want happiness. They want something good. They want a better outcome. All of us. And then, if you talk about all the animals, all the living beings, they're all looking for a better outcome. No one is looking for something terrible, catastrophic to happen to them. But the methods are different, and when the selfish motive takes over, then my happiness becomes more important than your happiness, and so on and so forth. And if my happiness is taken care of, my family's happiness is more important. My country's happiness is more important than your country, and so on and so forth. And this takes place, and all of this comes from the selfish motivation again, of course. So the next lesson tells us, point number 8 tells us, number 9 tells us that one should be kind. One should not hold any negative emotions toward the sentient beings because they have been kind. They were our parents and they were kind to us, so we should also repair their kindness by not holding any negative emotions towards them. So whether this applies to you or not, it's important to think that all sentient beings, irrespective of whether they have been your parents or not, we all seek the same goal. So we are all in the same sort of same boat here. And so therefore it is important to help them as much as we can, and most importantly, not to hold any negative emotions towards them. Because if you hold any negative emotions towards anyone, whether it's attachment, whether it's anger, whether it's hatred, whether it's greed, whether it's jealousy, whatever it is, the only person who is suffering from the negative emotions are not them, but you. If you want to, let's say, if you want to kill someone out of revenge, until you kill that person, you will be thinking about killing that person all the time. on the surface level, it seems as it is satisfying because you are avenging the death of someone close to you. But this is the only thought that keeps haunting you at all times until you are able to execute the act, which is to kill that person. So until you kill the person, you will always be thinking about how to kill that person, looking for the opportunities and all this kind of thing, which is robbing you of peace of mind. And once you kill that person, of course, this is against the law, and then you will have to think about how to run away, how to lie, how to hide, and all this kind of thing, and it will haunt you at all time. So killing is just one example. This happens to everything. If you lie to someone, the same thing you have to. If you lie to someone, then you have to always be careful that you tell the same lie to everyone, because if one person finds out that you are lying, then there is a high chance that the person will tell the other person that you are lying, and then your lies will be out. So the same thing goes on. So mentally holding negative emotions is helpful only to the other person. It's helping to no one, and the least to yourself. Holding negative emotions to anyone you dislike will not bother that person. If you are angry with somebody, that anger will not annoy that person. If you hold it within yourself, it will eat you up, and you will be the sole receiver of your own anger. That the harshness of your anger, you will be receiving it mostly. So there is an example which there was a quote which is sourced to Lord Buddha. So the anger, for example, the quote says anger, but it can be the example can be used for any negative emotions. So the quote goes like this: anger is like holding on to a hot coal, so that you can throw it back to the person, throw it to the person who has done harm to you. So if you hold a hot coal, a charcoal, if you keep holding it until you are able to see the person whom you hate, and so that you can throw it on the person so that you can burn him, so you may or may not get the chance, and by the time that you were able to throw it to the person you dislike, your hand is totally burnt. And this happens not just with anger, but with any negative emotions, whether it's guilt, whether it's greed, whether it's jealousy. Any of these emotions will eat you up rather than the person to whom you are planning to throw it at. So the last one is to close the three doors or three entrances or three gates, whatever it is a reference to the mind, body, and speech. So Tibetan we say gosum. So go is entrance, door, gate, whatever. So close the three gates, or to close your mind, body, and speech, to close your entrances of mind, body, and speech, to dharmic activities, to dharmic activities, and to engage in non-dharmic activities, that is irreparable loss. So be it physical activity from your body, which is from your mouth, or from the mental thoughts from your mind. So if you engage in the negative side, if you engage in the non-dharmic side, as we discussed earlier, the mind has an incredible potential to do bad things, and the same amount of potential can also be utilized to do good things as well. Fire can burn a house, and the fire can also warm a pot of water to cook. So the wind can shatter houses, the wind can destroy houses and shelters and so on and so forth. but the wind can also be generated, can be harnessed to turn into power, to turn into electricity. So there is a potential. There's an incredible energy potential with the mind, and since the mind is the instigator of both speech and action, physical action, so therefore whatever potential the mind has, the same potential is also possessed by the body and the speech, and so therefore anything that is being utilized for negative actions, negative activities, can also be transformed, turned towards the positive side as well. And using such an incredible amount of energy, such an incredible amount of potential to the negative instead of the positive side, is such an irreparable loss for a human life. Okay, so that's the end of the teaching. I think that, okay, now we have questions.